By 2040, Africa will have the larger workforce than China and India. By 2050, half of the world's population will live in Africa. If you're serious about entrepreneurship and building a brand, some of the biggest opportunities are in Africa. Mr. Kwesi Agyeman, do you agree with that statement?
Okay, all right. I definitely agree with that, Denta. And even more, I believe that Africa has come of age. Seeing what we have seen in the last few years with several return conversations across the continent, the engagement with the African diaspora, activities of the AU, and now after, I think Africa is ready. And so, yes, I agree with you.
And I mean, as part of the Ghana tourism, we've had a lot of African Americans, a lot of the diaspora coming back home. What has been some of the impact that you've seen from that?
All right, so I think when we started the year of return, the idea was to get more people to come visit the motherland. And so the focus was more of visitations, the number of people who have come, what they did when they were here, the kind of food they ate, places they went to, and the sort of impact that they made. But now, going forward and we're beyond the return, we're looking at the engagements between Africans and the African diaspora. And so our move, not just looking at people were here, they spent money here, and so that's the value of the economic activity that they brought to the country, to more of the cooperation and the engagements between Africans here on the continent and Africans even out there in the diaspora. And also between African countries, different African countries. And so if you take tourism, for example, we are looking at multi-destination. So people coming to Ghana and then moving on to, let's say, Togo or to Nigeria, people going to Nigeria and coming to Ghana. How can we make sure that that sort of cooperation exists between, let's say, Ghana and Kenya, Ghana and other countries? And so that is really the new focus for us. Engagements, and not just people came, this is how much they spent. Because we believe that there are business opportunities with AFTA, and through the sort of bridges that we build across the continent, we can attract businesses into the various destinations. Thank you.
Thank you. Prof, you know, a lot of African diaspora often views as a development actor or even as an ATM, always pumping out money. What do you think about this sentiment?
Please repeat the question.
So the African diaspora are often viewed as development actors. So we're here to come and develop, okay? Or often viewed as, you know, almost like an ATM, a cash machine. You come and you're supposed to take out money and help develop Africa. What does that sentiment mean to you?
Hello. Thank you. This is a good question. I was hoping that I wouldn't be the one to answer it. Yes, we are the ATM, but it's good. It means that we are family, that we are conscious of our responsibility to our communities and to our nations and to our continent, which makes us an undemocratic first citizen, if you like. We're not compelled. It's not a tax. We provide this help to our nations voluntarily. So I think we're a good and kind of ATM, which leads me to the key message that I really want to share with this wonderful gathering, and thank you very much to our hosts for inviting us here, is that the question of values.
Just put your mic so we can hear you.
The question of values is really important because we can't just be an ATM. Even banks have rules. So I think we should have some kind of policy around this money and the return that we get for it. We work for this money. As we say in Kenya, it doesn't fall from trees. So we need some kind of return, and the main return that we can get is to see this money spent properly, and for there to be accountability. So if there's lack of integrity in the national finances, we're not very encouraged to spend our money. It's not, we don't get any return. Some people now are investing their money in property, in the financial markets, because it has a return, and then from the profits, people can then contribute to the community. But we also need a political voice. And there needs to be an African continental free trade kind of agreement with the diaspora, which would fire up this begging bowl situation that we're in. So my job here is to advocate for a continental and African worldwide agreement with our continent, with the African politicians, the African Union, but also with the national governments. And we particularly owe a great deal to the traditional diaspora, who give so much to this continent, and all they want is to be able to return. A very simple ask. So we should have a policy, a proper policy, which enables them to come back home.
Prof, just let's talk a bit about the new possibilities. What are the new possibilities for the African diaspora?
The new possibility?
When they come to Africa.
I tell people that African diaspora people are African citizens first and foremost. So we're not going to a foreign place. We're coming home, and we're connected to our homes. We're connected to our societies. So we bring the same skills as our peers actually have on the continent. We're studying the same degrees. We're doing the same IT. We're using the same, technology. We're the same global people, but we have a greater passion and dedication to our continent. So that's really the value that we bring, that excitement, and we want to do something. And we have this fire in our belly to do something quickly, which I think people at home take a little bit more for granted, because they're here and enjoying fufu and chito and, kente. So we have a bit more urgency, and I think that's what we bring to the continent. But the skills, they're here. Everything that's out there, we have it here in Africa.
Thank you, Prof. Jake, you're big on the youth, as I mentioned. You are somebody that lived in a diaspora yourself and have moved back. How has your transition been, and how do you think that your story can impact on other young people who are trying to move back to Africa?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Fundamentally, I think as a young person in the diaspora engaging with Ghana, the first thing I tell people is do not think that moving back is the only way to engage. That is because of the technology we enjoy in the world today, because of the access to each other over the internet, over the telephone, and also with air travel, we are able to do a lot with each other. We are able to do a lot on the continent without necessarily being stationed here. I know people who come to Ghana who have full-time jobs living in the diaspora, are fully connected there with their communities, and make their way here multiple times a year to engage in other projects and things that are of interest to them, and are fully participating here as well. So that's the first thing. My personal story is a little different. I felt that my task abroad was finished, and on a more personal note, I felt that where I needed to be investing my life and myself was in building the continent with my presence as well. My transition happened 4 years ago, or I guess it just stopped happening when now I fully believe I live here. But it started 4 years ago in 2017 when I moved to Ghana, and it has been very rewarding being here. It almost feels like I caught the wave, because I came in 2017, and then 2018 we saw this boom in everyone's interest in Ghana, which I really think the Diaspora Affairs Office had a lot to do with, so shout out to us. And then 2019, year of return, which, 400 years since the end of the slave trade, and to look at how that time coincided very nicely with everything I was doing. I really think it was serendipitous. But I think in terms of engaging with Ghana and with young people looking at the continent, it's important to understand that we need to realize that geopolitics, as has shown itself, will not always be in our favor in terms of integration into other cultures, into other societies. And so we need to focus on making sure that we have a grip on where we call home. Because anywhere in the world, anything can change, and then we can be told, go back to your country. And when we are told, go back to your country, we should not look at that statement and be upset. We should actually be excited for the possibility of that. And that comes in simple ways as even getting your Ghanaian passport if your country allows dual nationality, your country where you're stationed, is registering to vote even if you may not be here for elections. Things that really getting involved, collaborating with people here on the ground. That's something I have been encouraging a lot of as well. So I hope that answers your question, but it's a very wide space of possibility and opportunity for young people to engage in, and I'm always pointing people in that direction.
Fantastic. And tell people about the event that you're doing for the youth, because you are engaging the youth in so many ways. So tell us about the event that you're doing for the youth.
Right. So I recently transitioned from my role as Youth Ambassador for Diaspora Affairs to Presidential Coordinator for Youth Engagement. And my passion has always been to link the diaspora youth with our global counterparts and with our local counterparts. And so what we are looking at doing this year on the 20th of December at Kempinski Hotel is a mentorship conference for young people. And it's going to actually have speakers from our business leaders from our country and our continent, but also some Ghanaians who have distinguished themselves in the diaspora who are looking to come and give back credible advice on how to build globally impactful careers. And I don't want to announce the headline speaker just yet, but you really want to sign up. So the way to sign up will be to go on Instagram to a page on Instagram called youthatthetable.gh, which is an initiative I started when I started this role, and sign up with the link, the Google form in the link, and keep your eyes peeled for surprises.
Thank you for that. Before I go to Katra, just to let the audience know that I'm open for questions as well. I want to make this very interactive as much as possible, and I'm going to be going on to the questions that's online as well that people are posting. So please, if you do have a question, please put your hand up and somebody will come and bring you a mic. Katria, Jake mentioned about, the diaspora is not just about investment, it's about mentorship. What other forms of things can we give? Apart from mentorship and investment, what do you think are the tools that the diasporan can bring to the African continent?
Thank you very much. Thank you for that question, and thank you to all my colleagues. First and foremost, as an East African whose first time it is in Ghana, I must acknowledge that this is truly the heart of the world, as your president said. We're in the middle of the Black Star, and it's so bright. And I must acknowledge that so much progress has been made over the past 60 years. There have been several crucible moments, right from 1958 when the All Africa People's Conference happened here in Accra. And one of our esteemed Kenyans, the late Tom Mboya, said it was time for the colonial forces to scram from Africa, having scrambled for our resources in 1884 in Berlin. And further to that, of course, we had the Casablanca Conference in 1961, hosted by the late King Mohammed V, and it convened heads of state who believed that Africa deserved political federation beyond economic and social emancipation. And then, of course, there was the Monrovia Bloc, which also blended together to create the ideology that was the foundation of the Organization for African Unity. And that brings us all the way forward to 2014, when the last Pan-African Congress was held here in Accra. And thus 7 years later to be here at the Kusi Ideas Festival, it truly is a full circle moment for me, and I'm so honored to be here. Regarding tools that the diaspora can deploy in advancing their influence, not just on the continent but around the world, we must take note of the investment that the diaspora have made in the countries that they have found themselves in. Whether they went as victims of the transatlantic slave trade or went as immigrants seeking greener pastures, it is a fact that the African diaspora is a hard worker, is someone who has built the nations in which those nations have been fortunate to have them present in. These are people who are committed to building back home. And to your question about ATMs, I think we must credit the diaspora for the remittances that they send back home every year. And not just Christmas, which I wish I could spend in Ghana, but next time. Another tool that I would say, finally, that the diaspora needs to bring into consideration. Many years ago, 1400s, Portuguese explorers sailed around the African continent seeking a way to get to the East Coast. And they were swept around the Cape of Good Hope, which is what they called South Africa at the time, because they were able to cross it. And Vasco da Gama made it all the way to East Africa. And there he set up the fort of Fort Jesus, and the equivalent on the west is Elmina Castle. And I would say that if these people in the 1400s could come and establish forts to fortify their interests, to protect their agendas, to secure their trade, I would say to our diaspora, come home whenever you want. As my brother said here, come home whenever you want, but wherever you are, take the time to create forts of your own. Create physical forts, digital forts, social forts, political forts. Let us expand our influence beyond, the cliche contributions that have been hitherto. And the reason I would like to emphasize digital forts most of all is because the digital realm, that is where we are most vulnerable, I feel. That is the next frontier for imperialism. And if we do not man up and warrior up and arm up, we run the risk of becoming digitally colonized. And so I call upon us all to become digital warriors for Africa. Thank you.
Thank you.